Arteta.
There you go.
Yeah, they can look at Pep and look at Cruyff and look at La Masia. Arsene Wenger is just up there as well when it comes to the beauty, capturing the beautiful stuff in football, let alone the beautiful stuff in life and in humans. Wenger's a life teacher as much as a magician on a football pitch. The way he played football, the way, as you said, he was an accountant and everything. Can't talk highly enough of this guy, bro.
For me, the one thing where it sticks out and I think is the most important is the season that we won the Invincibles. The season before that, he called this. He said that he believed that we can go unbeaten next season, and we did. So, bro, that just
looked at him like he was a madman, but he knew something.
They looked at him. There you go.
He nearly did it. He nearly did it twice as well. Because when we won the league in 2002, we only lost one game.
He said it. And let's remember, this is the first foreign gaffer that came and gave Sir Alex Ferguson problems. We don't have Pep, Klopp, Jose, all greats in the game and goats and all of that. Ranieri at Leicester. None of that happens without this man in the picture.
Arsenal and Arsene Wenger were the first people in the world on domestic soil, to show that dominant Man United and Alex Ferguson could bleed. And the thing is, the rivalry they had after that,
Told man to stop eating ketchup and that as well. All the sports scientists, Jazz as well. Crazy guy, man. 7
league titles, 4 to United, 3 to us, Like, when Liverpool and Man City fans try and talk about eras, they can't chat. Like, that is the era. That is the defining moment of the Premier League era. That blockbuster showdown between Arsenal and United, Wenger and Sir Alex Ferguson, Vieira and Roy Keane, that was box office. Do you know what I mean? The Premier League is now the most watched league outside of its country and of any other league in the world. And it came to being during this era. This era between those two, like when they were going at it, like that was it. That was my childhood, and like for me, like football peaked during that era in the Premier League for me, man. And, like it'll be good to see like that kind of like revived again, like just.
And when we made him come back to the Emirates, we won. We didn't do what certain man do with Alex Ferguson, making him witness 7-0s and that. We don't do that. We ain't gonna have Grandad in the cold like that. I know that much.
Nah, man. So man, it's well deserved, man.
It is a bit annoying. It is a bit annoying that he didn't win maybe 2 or 3 more leagues. I feel like he should have.
All right, Lee. Let me stop you because I was planning to gear it there. Yeah. As much as we're praising Wenger, and it's not to talk down on him and any of these things. Yeah. Obviously, no man is without faults. What would be your gripes with Arsene Wenger? Because mine would be, as much as I love him, I think maybe 2014, potentially when we beat Chelsea with Rob Holding, could have been time to step down. I think a bit like what we said with Conte, he was a bit stubborn, and not that he didn't want to change because his football has changed since at Highbury, but I don't think he wanted to adapt to the modern day and certain principles. So, like, what would you lot's faults be with him and things like that? Because I do think there's a saying in life that says, you know, don't overstay your welcome to the point where you become a villain. And he could never be a villain to Arsenal fans, but you could see why that's making sense.
Yeah. Do you know what? It would be between, you know, the fact that he should have left probably after that Chelsea, even Aston Villa when we beat them in the FA Cup, because I think what the sad part of it is, you know, he left and it almost was a bit like he was hounded out a little bit. I remember in his last game, a lot of fans actually left the stadium because they just didn't want to stay around because they were just so. They just felt like he was almost like bringing the club down and he was just destroying.
He couldn't separate Arsenal from Arsene. I felt towards the end.
There you go at those times. So I think for me, I think the one where I think he maybe let himself down is the Chelsea. Was it semi-final against Chelsea in the Champions League? Losing that in the last minute, Wayne Bridge scored the last minute goal. I think he should have won a Champions League. With the teams he had, with the teams he had, I feel like he should have won a Champions League. I think he was good enough.
You mentioned league title as well before I cut you as well.
For sure, as well. Yeah, like I think he could have done more, but I think when you also consider like who he was competing against and the resources he was being given to do that. I mean, like, do you know what I mean? He brought Ashley Cole from the academy. Like he brought like. Lenman
for like one of his worst moves, I feel actually.
Sol Campbell for free. You know what I mean, like, yeah, like, I mean, he turned water into wine like so much, but I think.
Well, he turned that shit into Henny, but I can't. Yeah. It's probably rare enough. In fact, stay away from that in current day, if I'm honest. But
I think what maybe let him down slightly, I think for me, would be I feel like he was a bit loyal to a fault to the establishment at Arsenal. Like,
and to players that didn't deserve it, because that's his greatest gift and curse. I feel, if you have someone like that believing in you, like, how you see how you got these Arteta players buying into what Arteta's doing. If Wenger's got troops like that, whether they're the ones he had, the experienced ones, or the young G's, then I think it works. I think there was a lot of players who, quite frankly, took the piss, knew certain players would get scapegoated, and knew Wenger, because he's been here for so long, because there was a lot of frustration, there was a lot of people he could run behind, and I do think that was a curse of his. If I'm honest, one of his faults potentially, but also his greatest bonus, essentially. So it was a bit mad. Lee, what was your point about league titles? Because I cut you off. I wanted to hear that about he should have potentially won more league titles.
It's so annoying because you look at it and what Alex Ferguson's got 13 in comparison to Arsene's 3, and you've been there for 21 years and you won 3 league titles. I feel like there were real opportunities to hammer home some others. And look, Man United were a fantastic team. They had some fantastic teams. We can't discredit them, but they've done.
Can't discredit that.
They've done 3 titles in a row twice. That isn't, that is a clear dominance,
and that's an envy of everybody.
That's a 3, literally a 3-peat twice though. That's a bit crazy.
Mad.
So I feel like there were opportunities for them to. There were opportunities to get at least 2 more titles, and I feel like he should have done it. I don't even feel like the Leicester one, because I feel like we have to give Leicester. I think when you actually look at that Leicester season,
don't disrespect Leicester, do their thing. But we said it was them versus Spurs, and they finished first. We finished second.
I think that the season that the Aaron Ramsey season when he got injured, that was definitely for us to get a league title. I think the 2000 and even the 2004, 5, 6 season, I feel we should have got another league title. We were a very good team, and I just feel like that's why I think people discredit the Invincibles, because the next season we didn't live up to anywhere near.
They say we had too many draws. Foolishness.
There you go. So I just think, look, like overall, man, like he's a great manager, but he definitely did some things. But we talk about the league titles, but the Champions League did irk me because we did have some chances to do some good stuff. I remember.
What was that? 17, 18 minutes from winning that, and then UEFA Lona did what they do.
But you know what? Though, forget that. Story, you know what? We can't really, because he didn't ask to get a red card. But I'm talking about actual other seasons where I feel like we had some.
No, we did underachieve in the Champions, even though we had some joke men
the season that we played Liverpool. The season that we played bloody Liverpool, and we was like a couple of minutes to going through. Adebayor scored a goal from Walcott crossing the ball in, and then we go at the other end and we let them score another goal. Like,
we was a mad team them times there. And even that, I give credit to Wenger as well, because again, I share your point, what you're saying. But when we look at that, we're in the Emirates, because I always go back and watch the games. Like I watched every Messi goal he scored against us. That lad's disrespectful. But when you look at some of the players, I remember going to the Nou Camp where technically at a point we was through Wenger in terms of game management and stuff like that. But we're relatively competing with, let's be honest, some joke men, really and truly. Like, you got a pensioner Sylvester, he's got his walking stick getting twined. Almunia had some okay moments, but generally wasn't good enough. And I think people really don't give Wenger the credit for that. And it's only when Arteta goes and succeeds and does what he needs to do, hopefully, that people will deep it. We've got the academy, we've got the stadium, everything that this man set out to do, And I think Wenger's the only lesson I learned from Arsene Wenger for me would be learn when to separate your emotion and know when to leave, because I think that's what Alex Ferguson had over him. He knew when to bust out, even though Ferguson didn't really leave United in the best of states. He knew when to leave. That brings me on to this question. Big up Christensen, and make sure you're subscribing, people, to both them, and the links are in the description. Do you feel, because I think this is a good comment in relation to Pep and Klopp, he somewhat sabotaged Arsenal by not leaving. Pep coming in would have got multiple leagues added. For me, I don't believe that. I agree with the premise, but when you look at, Glazides, what Kroenke and that were on them times, Pep would have bust out. Pep's not to just say it's a money thing, but Pep got peas. Liverpool bought into Klopp. Wenger was just kind of covering over the cracks of the board. So I think the illusion is different from reality. We could have won something with Pep, but Pep would have bust out first time when he's saying, I need this and that. You don't want to hear it.
Yeah, like he would have needed to have been backed, and the power struggle between the Kroenkes and the Usmanovs, post 2018, when you see them have full control, the Kroenkes, it's been completely different. So yeah, they probably would have had to have worked. Whoever came in at that time would have worked under the same conditions. So look, you have to credit Wenger for that. But I do feel like Wenger could have challenged that status quo a bit more because he had that power and that
What
influence.
do you mean by that?
He had that credit in the bank. He was Arsenal. Do you know what I mean? Before Arsenal's successful eras under like George Graham, like Arsenal were known differently. It was 1-0 to the Arsenal. There was very conservative.
He died by the high principles he set.
Yeah, very pragmatic football. Arsene Wenger completely changed the identity of the club. Like he put them at the forefront of sports science. Dietitianing of all the coaching and training methods. He brought like tactically like a jazz, to the way that we played that the whole world wanted to watch. So he with that comes
we had some of the best football in the world. Only Barca could talk to us.
A lot of power and influence, and he could have been laying bare to the Kroenkes, like, look, you really need to pull your fingers out, and he could have put more pressure on them by sort of positioning that in the media to be like, look, you lot are judging me on my performances, but this is what I have to work with. And I don't feel he did that enough, because he was too much of a company man. And you see a similar sort of thing happening with Klopp at Liverpool now, where there's been so much early on success that he feels this like sense of loyalty that he owes to the club, for giving him that kind of opportunity to have that success. But by the same token, you're being judged on being able to maintain that success. So you should be able to say, like, look, the owners aren't doing their job. They're not, like, at this point, their stewardship of the club needs to be brought into question. I just don't, I feel like it's not a gripe against Wenger because it's almost honorable. Do you know what I mean? That sense of loyalty, that is part of who he is. But that is one thing I do question about his, like, managerial career at Arsenal.
Playing devil's advocate, because you just provoked a question. Do you feel it was a two-way street? Because, as much as I like Wenger, there might have been certain things he'd done or was doing or how he was going about things. There might have been a pressure that ultimately would have led to him losing his job at another club where he did have, for all he did well, there was a degree of luxury at Arsenal. The club was just cool with top four and whatnot. Do you feel like it was kind of a two-way street then? I protect you, you protect me. I kind of get to not hide behind you, but I'm not really pushed to do all of that. I think Wenger would have loved to have won league titles, but I do think it was a bit of a two-way street because as much as I love Arsene Wenger, he does like to tell us, or did like to tell us all the time, how I rejected Real Madrid, I rejected this, that, and the third. You would have probably done well there, but ultimately, based on what you did show towards the end, you might have lost your job quicker than you got in the room there.
I think when you think about though, like, yeah, he sometimes, I think that got to the point where those are the times when he was saying that, sorry, when it was nearing that point where it was teetering on between we love Arsene Wenger and he's starting to slide. I think that's when he started to make those comments, because I think that's what a lot of people were saying. Do you remember, are you going to resign? Are you going to resign? Are you going to get players? And I think that's when the questions started to come, and then he would sort of start to rebuttal so by saying things like, yes, I could have gone to Real Madrid. I love this club. And I think that was a changing of, all right, Arsene Wenger, we can't question you. You are the man. You are the godfather of Arsenal too. Right, now we need to start to look at you as an Arsenal manager and not as the manager of the whole of Arsenal. You didn't create this and you didn't make the foundation of this club. We were there before you, and I think that's where it was quite difficult. But listen, man. Now we can look back in hindsight. Listen, the guy he's an amazing person, amazing man. He's done some great things, changed people's lives. Brought through a lot of players that people wouldn't know about. The Colo Torres, Ebus.
Well, even before that, at Monaco, he taught George Weah that white and black people could coexist. So that's why I always say when you think of Wenger, it's capturing the niceness in humans and replicating that on a football pitch. That's why I think you have to judge managers on their principles, because Wenger was a winner. He did want to win, but for want of a better phrase, I don't think winning was everything to him. It was the beautifulness of this sport that, regardless of whatever club we support and people in the comments, it was about capturing that. Essentially,
yeah, man. That attacking spirit, man. Like the way that we played football, like, was just stylistically beyond. Like, even in that peak, his first sort of 10 years or so, we were just blowing teams away. Like, we would go down like against teams. I remember we went like 2 down against Liverpool in the Invincible season.
So there was many times, and the players, we've seen it all.
Henry's gonna do something, like, and he just would, like, in the way he set up teams, like, he just didn't fear it, he didn't respect anyone, he wouldn't like bend or change his methods, like, to set up for a different team. He was like, this is how we're gonna play. We're Arsenal Football Club. You know what I mean? We pick up the ball, we pass, we move, we create chances, we played a beautiful game the way it should be played, you know, like, and we go out on our shield that way. That is our standard, you know, like, and he created that, and that part of our ethos has transcended, it's lived on beyond his actual retirement. You know, like, you see Arteta now, and like, you look at Arteta ball and you watch Wenger ball, you can see the throwbacks, you know, like,
Martin Odegaard speaks about Arsene Wenger and how he used to put
absolutely see it. Do you know what I mean? Like, he's created that rubber stamp, that gold standard for Arsenal, right? For this is how we play football. We give youngsters a chance. Again, that's something Arteta's doing now. I feel like Arteta's reverted back to what made Wenger, and he said, you know what, we need to tap back into this. We need to go back to basics. We need to go back to roots. So I feel like Wenger created that beacon, you know, like, for future generations of Arsenal managers to kind of really kind of look at and sort of like revert to as like at the core of our identity now, is who we are as a football club, you know. So to have actually lived through that, yeah, like, amazing, as an Arsenal fan, because you could see the transformation, do you know what I mean, from where we had come from with George Graham to Wenger until the end of it. And yeah, I can't speak highly enough of that, man.
Like you said, we can't speak highly enough of Arsene Wenger. Moving away from Arsene Wenger, because I see a lot of people are itching in the comments. Obviously, a few days ago, I'm sure you'll have covered it on your channels. I have as well. It looks like Bukayo Saka is ever close